What's up, nerds? This is Garchu Collects, or Dan, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to make a quick video showing off every swirl in my collection, as well as discussing whether I think swirls add additional value to the cards or not. So my personal opinion is yes, they do add additional value, at least for me. I think they add to the rarity and scarcity of the card, as not every card has a swirl on it, as well as I think they add to the eye appeal of certain cards. Depending on where the swirl is located, I think it can add a lot to the art of the card. Now, please leave your thoughts in the comments below right now. Tell me if you think swirls add value to cards or not. I'm very curious to hear your response, as I think it's kind of a hotly debated topic. I know some people think, oh, a PSA 9 is a PSA 9, a PSA 9, doesn't matter whether there's a swirl, doesn't matter if there's any additional damage, if the centering's off more so on one card than the other, it's PSA 9, they all sell the same. I kind of disagree with that. I think you should buy the card for the card, but anyway, we're not talking about that necessarily in this video. So, kind of the reason what spurred me to make this video is that I did pick up two Neo Discovery Umbreons at CollectCon Chicago, as I showed off in my last video. I originally picked up this copy because I had the swirl. I'm really happy with this copy. I like where this swirl is located. But then I saw this copy after the fact, and I was like, oh, well, damn. I like how the swirl's through the tail. I think that's really cool. In hindsight, though, this copy's kind of off-center. It might have a slight double hollow error, which is pretty cool, but this is the copy I'm keeping for my collection, and I'm going to be selling this one at a local show coming up in a couple weeks that I'm vending. So I just want to make a video kind of showing these together, and showing why I actually bought this second card, even though I just had purchased this maybe an hour before. It's because of the swirl. Like, when I'm a sucker for a good swirl. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think it's really good to have a swirl on these cards. Like, in fact, for all the Wizards of the Coast and e-reader cards, I'm only going to be picking up copies with swirls because I want to have my complete set of it. Like I said before, I'm trying to complete Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge. I want all those hollows to have a swirl on them. All of my e-readers want to have a swirl on them. And while, unfortunately, first edition base set does not have swirls, I might be eventually, maybe down the line, doing a base set 2 hollow set, PSA 9, that all have swirls, because I really like that Cosmos hollow pattern as well. But anyway, let's keep moving on here. So I guess while I start showing off these cards, one of the things I wanted to mention about swirls is that I think of it similar to like a Pokemon Center stamp in a weird way for the Scarlet and Violet promos that come in the ETBs from Pokemon Center. Because there's a regular version of the card. Like, there's plenty of these Salamence Winter promos. I mean, this is just a random CGG 8. You can see I only got it because it's a swirl. I'm not in love with the grid or anything by any means. But this has an awesome swirl. And I think it adds a lot of value to this card because not every card has the swirl. It's similar to the Pokemon Center stamps, where the Pokemon Center makes, in theory, a more limited print run of these ETB promos that are stamped. But then there's plenty of them that have the exact same art, everything exactly the same, except there's a little stamp in the corner that makes it multiples times more valuable according to the market. So I think that's why swirls are a pretty good comparison to that, because like there's plenty of these Azumarils out there. Obviously, they all go for I think about $100. I paid $100 for this one, but I think this Azumaril is pretty significantly more valuable because it has this little extra feature on the card in the hollow pattern that not every card has, and I think it's in a pretty good location. Right by his head is a full swirl on the card. At least for me, that makes me much more excited about the cards in general. I don't know. Let me know if you agree or disagree, but I'm definitely sold that swirls add value to these cards. I guess another good example would be like a first edition card versus an unlimited. I guess here, since this is a first edition card right in front of me, the stamp, first edition stamp, exact same art as an unlimited Azumarill, but this stamp adds so much value. I think it's mainly because it's more rare, right? Like, it's more rare. And then the condition makes it even more scarce. But this stamp doesn't add anything to the card art, really. Like, the only reason these first edition cards in general are sought after is because they're more exclusive, right? So I think that same logic can be applied to swirls, especially depending on the location. Oops, sorry about that. Especially depending on the location of these cards. I just think it can really add a lot, and I think the market's kind of sleeping on a lot of these swirls. So anyway, wanted to highlight this Raichu specifically here. It's one of my favorite cards I own. I love how the swirl goes through his tail. I'm a big Raichu fan, the first figure ever. I only paid like $220 for this, which was like a great deal, especially with the swirl. So this was a really good pickup. And then I guess the only other Team Rocket holo I have is this Dark Blastoise, also with a swirl. I do want all of these, as I mentioned, to have a swirl. So I'm glad I have two of the bigger ones out of the way. I'm really happy with both of these copies. Slide these in here. You know what? Let's just get these out of the way. But yeah, I think that the market over the next 5 to 10 years is going to kind of pick up on this trend. Like, I think a lot of vendors already kind of show off cards that have swirls. Like, I've seen all the time at shows, like, they'll price the card a little higher because there's a swirl, or they'll even, like, on the team bag that the slab's in, they'll circle it with a Sharpie saying, oh, look at this swirl here, like, buy this. It's worth more than comps because it has a swirl on it. I think some people feel that way, but I think if vintage has another resurgence, then that will be even more so the case. And I'm happy to be kind of on this trend of swirls before it's trendy, frankly. Like, I think if there's ever a big boom in vintage, like, what's going to set a lot of these PSA 9s apart is this, whether they have a good swirl or not. You know, because the PSA 10s they're so rare on their own because the pop is so much less for a lot of these cards. So then people are going to want to go for the 9s. But then kind of like a tier between 9 and 10, in my opinion, is whether there's a good swirl on the card or not. And I reckon that a lot of these cards, like less than half of them, have a good swirl. Like, I don't know the exact number. Any number I would say is a complete guess I'm pulling out of my ass, but I think there is definitely something to be said about good place swirls adding significant value to cards. Because in theory, and what I really like about the Expedition holo pattern as I show up this Mewtwo, is in theory there's like an infinite number of places the swirl could be, right? So each card is kind of like a one of one. I mean, that's the same like the Wizard of the Coast pattern too, but each card is printed slightly differently with the holo pattern. Like, the swirl could be anywhere. Like, I don't think there's any other Mewtwo that has a swirl positioned perfectly like this. In fact, I love where this swirl is positioned. It's like, I call it the dick swirl, you know? It's coming right out of his abdomen there. It's pretty funny. I'm a big fan of this swirl. I had to pick up this card when I saw it. And the first thought I had was like, oh, wow, it's a fucking cock swirl. And I love it, you know? It's great. And yeah, I guess this is moving on into this card is probably the most unique card in my collection in terms of swirls. It's a double swirl. I've never seen a card like this before. I actually think this card, even though I paid pretty high on it, like I did trade at 80%. So I think my cost basis in the trade, plus a little bit of cash, like $400. I think this is more like a $350, $320 card. But anyway, the swirls are just crazy on this. Like, I love the swirl right below, and then I love how there's like the double swirl coming in up top. I've never seen anything like this before. I think in theory, like, putting this on eBay and really highlighting the double swirls, like, you can get a significant premium, more than $400 for the right buyer, like, if you're patient enough. And I'm very patient, you know, I'm in this for life. I'm not planning on selling these cards anytime soon. I love this as double swirl. I think one day I could make significant gains on this purchase if I decide to do so, because something like the double swirl, like, how many PSA 9 and 10 first edition Blaine Moltres have two swirls on them like this? I'm going to reckon not many at all. So I think it adds such a high potential ceiling of additional value that I don't think is fully realized by the market yet. So I'm glad to, like I said before, glad to kind of be on this trend before it seems like it's trendy. I know modern is always going to be like the more desirable, like what Dan Catchall Collectibles says, the moderner, the betterer. I'm like with that in terms of like market sentiment. Like, we're always moving on to new things, but if there's ever a resurgence of vintage, I definitely think that swirls are gonna really kind of differentiate themselves from their non-swirl counterparts in terms of value. It's just kind of a little baby swirl in the corner there. Maybe I shouldn't have even pulled that one out, but yeah, here's another Venusaur. I really like the full swirls. Like, I guess let's go back to this Raichu for a minute. This card, like, the Pokemon is just so well centered. It'd be hard to get like a full swirl on there. I didn't even notice that a swirl when I got it. I traded this for this probably a year and a half ago, just for, like, I think I pulled a Charizard from 151, an extra one, and just traded it basically straight across for this. I think I threw in maybe an illustration rare or something, but anyway, that was nice. Little bonus had a swirl on it. And yeah, I really like how swirls add to the art. Like I said, like, the first thing I look at is this swirl on this card. I don't know. And I feel like it gives you motivation to enjoy the holo pattern. Like, I want to tilt. It's a little hard on camera here, but I want to, like, move the card so I can see the whole swirl, you know? I don't know. I'm a little autistic, guys, but if you got this far in the video, I appreciate you watching. I really do think that swirls get girls, you know? Swirls get girls. I'm definitely not alone. Like, I know the occasional Pokerev, like, box break I'll watch. Like, he's always hyping up swirls too. Like, I think it's out there, but I don't think it's fully common knowledge, because a lot of these vendors I'm buying these cards from, like, they're not asking any additional money. Like I said, some of them are, but a good amount of them aren't. Like, a good amount of them, like, they don't care that the card has a swirl. Like, they will still work with me on price all the same. Where is this swirl? Oh yeah, it's right there. Oh, that does not pick up on camera well at all. Yeah, there's a swirl in the Zapdos promo. Just real quick, back to Blaine. Shout out the poop swirl. I do like that swirl. I wish it was a little more on the card, but it's okay. Just wanted to shout that out. I forgot to mention. This is a set of swirls I'm kind of proud of. Latios. Like, how many... This is kind of my question. It's like, how many people have a set of Latioses, PSA 9 or PSA 10, that have two, like, nice swirls on the card where it's like a full swirl like this? Like, I don't think many. Like, I think this set is substantially more valuable than, like, I think it's like $450 would what, like, market would be for these two right now. I don't know, I haven't checked in a while, but, like, I don't know. I feel like it definitely, like, it's like a kind of like an additional tier of rarity in the cards. Like, I think when you get deep enough into collecting, you kind of realize that, like, a PSA 9 is not a PSA 9, is not a PSA 9, you know? Like, cards that are greater than 9 sometimes should be 10s, sometimes should be 8s, you know? And then if we're on a level playing field of the condition is the exact same, like, centering, edges, corners, whatever, surface, all the same, what sets us apart is this swirl. And I think as these cards get, like, scooped up into more and more collections, like, there's more people who are in it for the long term and don't really want to sell and find copies they're happy with, maybe because it has a really nice swirl in it, it's going to be harder and harder to find these nice PSA 9 and 10s that have a really nice swirl on them, because they're going to be inside collections. So I'm really interested to see how this plays out. Right now, it's not really a thing, like I've been saying, but I definitely think it will be soon. I think it's kind of a trend people are sleeping on. I just want to show off this Charizard. Unfortunately, there's the swirl. It needs to be like an inch higher. Not even an inch, like a centimeter higher. See that, though? I love this card. You know, I've said in prior videos, like, I think about selling this card. I don't think I love that I have the EXs. Like, I showed out a Blastoise. I need a Venusaur with a swirl. I guess I'll count this unless I see one with an absolutely banging swirl at a show I can maybe trade for Charizard EX. I'm not going to upgrade this copy. This is my copy. I'm pretty happy with it. I do need a new grading guard, though. The orange does not go. I'm well aware of that. And then we're kind of getting to the final two big swirls of my collection. Like I've said before, this is my favorite card I own, period. Maybe not actually with this last card I'm going to show, but it's one of my favorite cards I own. I will always own this card. This card is going to the grave with me. You know, maybe give it to kids, grandkids. But yeah, I'm keeping this for life. So if you're interested, I'm sorry. But I just love how central the swirl is. It's almost like a double swirl. As you can see, it extends there. I don't know. I just, like I've said a couple videos, very nostalgic about this card. Had it when I was a kid. Had a non-holo or a reverse holo as well. So I knew I needed to get one. I eventually saw this on the market, and this is a good example of some of me kind of like, you know, Dan Ketchum Collectibles. I shout him out again because I watched a lot of his content. he says stuff about people like talk, but then they have to actually like walk the walk, you know, like do what they say they're going to do, and kind of back up the things they say. And this is an example of me backing up what I say, I think, to a T, because this card I think goes for like 900 to 1,000, maybe less, a little less in a PSA 9, but I paid 1,200 plus shipping, and then eBay fees, whatever, or well, sales tax, I should say. I associate one and the same because as a buyer, I usually buy at shows to avoid all that. But anyway, I paid like $1,300 all in for this card. So like $300, $400 over market because of this swirl. Because I think this card's like a one of one, truly. I don't think there's another PSA 9 or 10 that has a swirl in this exact location. And I really love where this swirl's located. I mean, maybe it'd be cool if it was like on here coming out of his mouth, but I bet there's one out there that is, but there's probably only one, you know? Like, how many more PSA 9s have a full swirl, like almost like a double swirl that looks this good and is like this full of a swirl, you know? Like, not many. Like, it's very scarce. Like, I don't know if I'll ever see another one that rivals this. And if I do, maybe I'll buy it. But until then, you know, this is my copy, and I'm really thrilled to have it, and I love this card, and I think this hollow pattern shows off the swirl really incredibly. And I'm a big fan of Charizard, as you guys know. All right, and the last card in my collection that has a swirl, save the best one for last. I don't know, that was a weird breathing noise, excuse that. But this Shining Gyarados, I paid... As I mentioned in my last video, there's a Chicago Collecticon pickup, the pickup of the show. I believe it was $1,350. No, it's $1,300 cash, and then probably about $800 of trade. So I'm in this card probably like $21.50. I think that's right what market is for it. But anyway, this card is stunning. This is like one of the best arts ever, in my opinion. And it's a little hard to see on camera just because the background's dark, but there's the swirl. It's like right there. Yeah. See it? Right there. It looks really good in person, guys. It's just the darkness of the background. But anyway, I love where this swirl is because it's like, it's placed right next to Gyarados, and it's kind of like an additional like wave of water, like from him splashing up, you know? And I think it just looks absolutely gorgeous. Like when you're moving the colo around, you can see it there. It's like the water effects. Like that's why I love this card so much, I think, is because, well, the art's just great with the guy in the boat, the fisherman, and then the Shining Gyarados popping out. But as you move the hollow pattern around, like even these little orbs here, it kind of just looks like this water like splashing in your face as you're like looking at this scene. And it's, the swirl just adds so much to that, in my opinion. So this is another like card I consider like a pseudo one of one. Like, find me another Shining Gyarados that has a swirl exactly like that, where it kind of makes it look like the water splashing. Like, where would a swirl be better? Maybe like coming out of his mouth, some sort of attack. I don't even know. Maybe above the fisherman's head would be kind of weird. But in terms of adding to the art of a card, this swirl is unmatched. This is exactly what I was talking about when a swirl adds to the art of a card. And it's just stunning. It's unbelievable. And I'm so lucky and so happy I own this card. This is probably my new favorite card that I own, and this is going to be really hard to top. At first, I think I was kind of a little bit just numbed to Pokemon cards, just being around so many cards. Like, I held multiple first edition PSA 9 and BGS 9 Charizards from base set at Collecticon, so I was kind of just numb to valuable cards. But then kind of like a few days later, just like looking through my cards again, I really gained an appreciation for this card, and I'm just really happy to own it. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much the video. That was every swirl in my Pokemon card collection. I'm hoping to have more for you soon. Maybe we'll do another check-in next year around this time and seeing what new swirls I've added. But I've made it this far into the video. Leave a hot dog emoji down in the chat, please. And let me know if you think swirls add value to cards or not, and if you enjoy swirls and like to collect swirls. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day. Take care.